Welcome to another episode of the Two Shots Podcast. I'm your host, Joe Garcia, and today we're going to be joined by an all-star lineup. And that's going to be the heavy hitters from everybody in the Spurs universe here on Spurs Twitter, locally, and also coming straight at us from the Dallas area. We have not only Ty Yeager joining us from At the Line Podcast, we also have Robert Trejo joining us from A Bucking Spurs Podcast, and we also have John joining us from Spurs and Salsa. Gentlemen, thank you guys for joining me, and thank you for being a guest here. This has been a long time coming, so let's go ahead and have everybody introduce themselves before we go ahead and move on. We'll go ahead and start with John from Spurs and Salsa. Why don't you let us know where they can reach you and all the good things you got going on there?
Thank you. I am 1/3 of Spurs and Salsa. You can find us at Spurs and Salsa on Twitter and Instagram. We cover all things Spurs. We talk a little local sports, the teams everybody likes. And probably the most important thing, we review restaurants and breweries and local beers all around San Antonio. If it's local, we'll eat it and we'll drink it. Our Instagram page has most of our food and drink pictures and content. And then, of course, you can follow us, or you can find us on iTunes, Spotify, and Google. We also have a Facebook fan page, Spurs and Salsa. That's one of our most lively social media platforms. But I'm excited to be here. Is this All-Star team or maybe the Monstars?
We're the Monstars.
Yeah.
And we're also joined by some of the other local heavy hitters here that we got in the Spurs universe on Spurs Twitter here. We have Robert Trejo. Robert, why don't you let us know all the things that you got going on and cooking up over there at A Bucking Spurs Podcast?
Yeah, what's up, Spurs Nation? Thanks, Joe. Thanks, Ty. Thanks, John, for having me on today. I'm really looking forward to this. You guys can go to buckingspurs.com to see any of the other projects that we got going on over here. If it's a podcast, a YouTube video, or whatever. I'm currently working on a film room on Quindary Witherspoon, our second-round draft pick from this past year, who's balling up in the G League. Keeping a close eye on the G League this year because that's our future. And if you want to follow us, you can follow us on Twitter, on Instagram. Our podcast is on iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, wherever you get your podcast jam on. We're probably there. So, buckingspurs.com. Appreciate it, guys.
There you go, man. And Ty Yeager, why don't you give us your beautiful radio voice? He's one half of the guys from At the Line Podcast. Ty, let us have it, man. Give us your best radio intro.
Why, thank you, sir, for having me on your radio show. I can only do that for a few minutes. Then I'm gonna lose my voice. But thank you for having me. I'm just gonna be ultimately looking off screen for the whole podcast. So if you guys ever see the video, I'm just looking off the screen the whole time. But you can follow me and Mac, who is my co-host for At the Line. You can follow us for all our podcast stuff at the Line Pod. We are basically more cussing and more just unfiltered type Spurs content. You can find my content as well. I also cover the Austin Spurs for the Spurs Zone. You can follow me on Twitter at Ty Yeager Radio. That's Ty Jager Radio. And if you want some more fans type stuff, you can follow Mac, who gives you all sorts of fan stuff, and you can follow him at Mac Penn Media. That's our whole crew here at the Line.
And there you go, man. There you have it. And of course, you all know me, Joe Garcia of the Two Shots Podcast, and you can follow us at twoshotspodcast.com. Right? I'm just one of the Garcias. Like you said, it's me, it's Jeff Garcia and Paul Garcia.
I was gonna say which Garcia again? Because I know too many at this point.
Right? There's just too many of us here on Spurs Twitter. So I'm the little lesser one, the lesser known one. The OGs are going to be, Jeff, and then you got Paul, and then you got me. So I'm the third in line there. But we're going to go ahead and keep moving forward here and talk about the Spurs and the debacle that was the Oklahoma City game, as the Spurs got a thorough ass kicking and winded up losing by a total of, the final score was 131-103, and they dropped from 10th to 11th. Now we have the Pelicans in that 10th spot out west. So things are looking bleak for our San Antonio Spurs. And I need someone to pull me off the ledge, give me hope, and tell me that everything is going to be fine. So for that, we're going to go ahead and first start off with John from Spurs and Salsa. John, pull me off the ledge. Give me some hope. What do we got to look forward to, man?
Oh, man. So I was off the ledge most of the season. I was the ambassador for making the playoffs. And I kept telling myself, I kept telling my listeners, followers, hey, let's wait till after the rodeo road trip. That's always a barometer for this franchise. And I think it's a good barometer for this particular team. They've been inconsistent. They've been fighting for that 8th spot. And if I look at just yesterday's game, you can chalk it up to just a bad game, right?
Yeah.
You're on the road a lot. You didn't shoot the ball well. It's a bad game. But bigger picture, the rodeo road trip's over. We're now the 11th seed, like you said. We'd have to jump 3 teams just to get into the playoffs. And even with injuries, the Grizzlies have a tough schedule. The Blazers have some injuries. The Pelicans are starting to catch fire. Obviously we know why. They've got Zion back, and they're the team that they were supposed to all season. I mean, they've got a very good roster. They got more from the Lakers than I think we gave them credit for. And then you add Zion to the mix. I don't think we're catching them. The fact that we fell behind them now is a scary thought, to be honest. I can't talk you off the ledge on this one.
So we'll go ahead and go with you, Ty. Ty, talk me off the ledge, man. I mean, really, what do we got going on here, man, with the San Antonio Spurs? Is this going to be the nail in the coffin that sinks the ship? I mean, what's going on, dude?
I don't think so. I'm the optimist, I would say, of the group, or just in general, especially between Mac and I. I just think it was a bad night.
Should I put my Homer glasses on to hear this take?
But I don't think it's the end of the road yet. It's my metric for saying this team is out of it is if they fall 5 games or more behind Memphis. And at one point they did fall 5, and then they jumped up 2 games ahead, 2 games back against them. And now they're about 4 games back, and so they're still teetering on that edge that if they go beyond 5 games, they honestly don't have a chance. That's too big of a road for them to really catch up on. I think Portland is still an injured team. They're a team that you still could easily drop. Grizzlies have lost Jaren Jackson Jr., and they are currently, as we record this, is just getting their asses handed to them by the Clippers. And I will agree, the Pelicans, they look a bit unbeatable. They're 7-3 in their last 10. Zion is looking fine and healthy, and they have a big game against the Lakers come Tuesday night. So that should be something fun to watch. Which could be a possible 1-8 seed matchup. But the San Antonio team still has a chance. I just think that game against the Thunder was a bad game. They shot 36% from the field and over 103 attempts. Just nothing was working for them. And you're probably going to lose a game when your leading scorers are Rudy Gay and Marco Bellinelli at 14 and 13 points apiece. And still, I think there's some highlights from that game still. You got a good peek at the youth. You got a good peek at Keldon and Chimezie, what they can do. Keldon got 9, Chimezie got 8 in their garbage time. Even though DeJounte went over 7 from the field, which is kind of a rarity for him lately, he still had 7 assists. He was still getting his teammates involved, which is really important. And he just got knocked out of rhythm early on, getting two fouls early on in the first. And I think he just got knocked out of rhythm. I think this was just a bad night for the Spurs. Is it a season-ending night? No. Unless they lose again on bobblehead night to the Mavs, and depending on how bad, then yes, it's probably a nail in the coffin come following Wednesday night. But I still think this Spurs team has a chance. Is it slim? Yes. But is it impossible? No.
I think I got a better chance of winning the lotto than this team has at making that 8th spot, dude. It's kind of asinine to me to hear the local media now talking about the race for 8th. Have we really degraded that far that we're at the race for 8th, where we're just hoping that this team is going to make the 8th spot? I mean, come on now. Don't even say that to me. It's like, why even use that as a bit, But Robert, how are you feeling, man? good, bad, this the end? I mean, what are we looking at?
I think what we're looking at realistically is just that we're not going to make it. I mean, Ty hit it on the head. John, you as well. I mean, the Pelicans are the only team out of those bottom 4 teams that are actually on an upswing right now. Those are the guys that are actually playing with some momentum, actually getting better at this point of the season. I mean, I think we all thought that we were getting better as well over the past few games, but then this OKC kind of just brought us back down to earth. I mean, it's not over. We're still mathematically into it. So technically, I mean, I don't want to jump off the boat right now on this season, but it's the same old, same old. I mean, I've seen the fourth quarter of that game probably about 2 or 3 times just because I saw something different in that quarter. You know, there was that lineup of DJ, Lonnie, Keldon, Marco Bellinelli, and Trey Lyles, you know, and then Derek White came in for DeJounte and Chimezie came in for Trey down the stretch. And to me, that was probably one of the most exciting points of this season. You know, we're mixing up youth with some of the veterans. We're actually experimenting now with some lineups that we haven't really seen too much of and seeing what these young guys can do. And to me, that's just a sign of, you know what, it's just not going to happen for us this year. I think I've come to that point where making the playoffs is probably not in the realm of possibilities anymore. And I think it was a great scientist named Albert Einstein that said the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results. And I mean, we've just been that team that's just been banging our head against the wall season long with the same lineup, the same minutes. You know, DeMar DeRozan and LaMarcus are 2 leading shot takers. And that is just not good enough to make the playoffs this year when it should be good enough to make the playoffs this year. This is one of the weakest Western Conference that we've seen in over 15, 20 years. And what we have right now isn't good enough. And to me, it's just disappointing that we're still trying to see if it's good enough after the All-Star break. And we're fighting that. DeJounte's playing well. Like Ty said, DeJounte had 7 assists the other night, played good. And we're better when the game's in DeJounte's hands. I mean, why did it take us so long to get DeJounte more involved? And I know it's coming off his injury and it takes time and things like that, but I mean, I'm sorry, DeJounte has to be our second option on a game-to-game basis. And you know, when it's a second option behind LaMarcus in one game or behind DeMar DeRozan in another game, it really doesn't matter. You know, these young guys need to take more of a leadership role, and we haven't seen that. DeJounte's taken the 4th most shots on the team on a per-game basis. You know, you have LaMarcus, DeMar, Patty Mills, leading the race, you know, in shots per game taken. So I don't know. I don't understand what this season was. You know, I'm trying to think of, you know, what's the whole reason why we kept Bryn in the starting lineup? Why do we keep giving Bryn all this opportunity? And to be honest, I think it's a Spurs thing. You know,
it's loyalty, man. They're loyal to a fault, dude.
Yeah. But not only that, I don't think the Spurs are the type of organization to take away the opportunity that Bryn has worked so hard for in a contract year. You know what I'm saying? Imagine if we benched Bryn Forbes this year in a contract year early on in the season.
Yeah.
He's probably not going to make his money this offseason. I would say that there's always a premium for shooting, but I don't think the Spurs are the type of team to kind of do a guy like that, you know? And I just think that
they ain't going to do him dirty like that.
Yeah, they're not going to do him dirty like that. So that loyalty, and just, you know, seeing the same thing over and over and over kind of turned my head away from this season a little bit, looking more towards our young guys.
Okay.
And that last night's game was just a perfect example of all that.
But when it comes to Bryn Forbes, I was gonna say you could easily have a Jonathan Simmons situation where they come to a realization and they're like, oh, what the hell did we just do? And let him walk. I think that might be a possible situation this offseason.
It could be, but I think Robert, you're in the final stage of, you know how they have the 5 stages of grief? It's denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and acceptance.
Yeah.
I think that's where I'm at. I'm at the final stage of grief. I'm at acceptance. I've accepted that we're not going to make the playoffs, you know, but along with that acceptance, we do have a bright spot. And as you pointed out, it was the youth. You know, and that's what I want to get Ty's take on right now. Ty, this injection of youth that we have, because you've been one of the guys who has followed the G League as well. You've covered the G League, and you've seen the young guys out there, and you've seen what they can do. and the future of Keldon Johnson, Luka Samanic, Quindary Weatherspoon. We even have decisions to make regarding, one, Drew Banks, Shizemi Metu. These guys, I think, could be the future for the San Antonio Spurs when we finally have, and maybe 2 or 3 seasons down the line, we have DeJounte, we have Derek, if he stays, we also have Lonnie Walker, possibly at that point in time, really starting to come into his own. And these are going to be the veterans that are going to be leading the team with the injection of youth. And that could be a perfect mix for the Spurs being right back up there in the mix again. Your thoughts on that, Ty?
I think one of the best things that I think is really severely underrated with this team is its youth core. The young core that this team has is pretty damn talented whenever you look at it. And this is still a fairly young team. You had DeJounte Murray, you got Derek White, you got Trey Lyles. I think Trey Lyles should be thrown in there. You got Jakob, you got Lonnie, you got Drew Eubanks, Keldon Johnson, Chemezi, Quindary, and Lucas Samanic. These are all guys that are really talented and under the age of 25. Mm-hmm. So once these guys kind of start getting run, and we saw with DeJounte, where DeJounte, whenever he gets run, he can really cook some teams' defenses. And besides defenses, he's going to be the one lighting it up on defense as well. Derek White is still a consistent guy, and I think he's going to be a good sixth man in his career. I think he's going to be a great sixth man.
Yeah.
Lonnie Walker, he's explosive. He is dangerous. I think we all know how high this man can jump.
And even his missed dunks are spectacular.
Yes, and
there's just too many of them. I think
you get the Razzie.
It's not even his fault. It's the other teams that's fouling him because they know they don't want to get Lonnie Walker dunked on. But I think once he's given some run, he can show that he can really score. Then you got Drew Eubanks. I think Drew Eubanks is really talented, and I'm really hoping the Spurs sign him to a full contract. The way that he can just be a beautiful rim runner and finishing at the rim, defending at the rim. He's very athletic for his size, and then he's a ball of energy. And I think that he could easily have a Patty Mills type energy, type personality that would really fit well for this young team. Keldon Johnson, he's explosive. He's a bit raw. He needs some work, especially with his shooting, but he is damn talented. And we saw that against the Thunder, where he will not stop hustling. That man fought for a rebound. He kept fighting between Steven Adams, got the ball out somehow, and I was wowed me in just a beautiful kick out. I don't know. Yeah. I've never been so wowed by an effort and kick out than what Keldon Johnson gave me last night, to only be airballed by Marco Bellinelli, but that's not the point.
I hate that I had to put Marco Bellinelli in my freaking stats, dude. That was painful. I hate him. I don't want to see him out on the court. I hope he never sniffs another minute for the rest of the season. I hate him because he blocked me for no damn reason. So F that dude. So F that guy. He's dead to me.
I think you're not the only one blocked by him. I think more than half of Spurs Twitter is blocked by him.
And DeJounte too. DeJounte likes to block IG people.
Really?
Oh, yeah. I see.
On IG.
So he's just blocking out that negative energy. But then
exactly.
But then just continue. Quindary is solid. I think he's gonna be a solid guard. And then my personal favorite, Lucas Samanic. This dude, once he gets his opportunity, everyone's gonna be seeing that he is worth the wait. That he was worth
man,
taking.
But that guy needs to eat some ribs or something, man. He needs to bulk up.
Compared to during the offseason and preseason, he is definitely bulked up. He has definitely gained some weight from the looks of it. He's looking much beefier. He's looking more buffer, or is that a word? I don't know. But
more buffer.
More buffer.
More buffer. Put it on a shirt.
Ty, let me ask you, how does Keldon compare to, as far as playing in the G League, compared to Derek White and Lonnie Walker at that stage?
I just think his shooting is not there. Honestly, he's not shooting that well. He's shooting a poor 23% from deep. I think from Derek and Lonnie that we saw a lot more shooting. Yeah, he does shoot a 52% from the field in general, but that's a lot at the rim. He has a lot of close range shots more than deep shots. But I will say that Keldon Johnson differs in the energy level that he brings and the hustle. And we saw that last night. We've seen that multiple times in Austin Spurs games where he's just running all over Hell's Half Acre and he is making plays. He is very energetic and he is good at it. Besides his shooting, I do want to see him get his teammates involved. He's only averaging 2.5 assists in the G League, and I think he can really improve that overall. And also, his defense, compared to Lonnie and Derek, especially Derek, his defense is there. It might not show up in the stats, but whenever you watch him play defense, he's doing stuff out there on the floor, and it's fun to watch.
Yeah, no doubt. So, John, give us your take.
You
man.
mentioned. Oh, I'm sorry. So, hearing Ty talk about Keldon in the G League, I'm okay with him there to develop the shot. Maybe if there was a roster spot, maybe if Forbes is gone next year, Keldon can get more play in San Antonio. I'm okay with Keldon in the G League this year, simply because he wouldn't get any minutes in San Antonio anyway. And if he's there to develop a shot, I think Chip will do wonders for that. And then for Luka, I think it's just a weight issue. I think they put him in Austin this year just to bulk up. So I'm okay with those two in Austin this year. I know a lot of fans want to just blow up the season and play every young player on the main roster. I'm okay with Keldon and Luka there, especially talking to Ty right now. With Lonnie, he's one of the most physically gifted athletes I've ever seen on a basketball court. There's certain people that are just athletes. Russell Westbrook looks like he could play football if he wanted to. LeBron James, same with LeBron James. Lonnie is that kind of athlete. And I think when it all comes together for Lonnie, whether it's the end of this year, maybe next year, I think he's the one that can be special just because of his pure athleticism.
And I think when you look, and sorry, I was going to say, when you look at these guys that we all love as fans, DeJounte, Derek, and Lonnie, Keldon Johnson and Luka Samanic are doing the exact same thing that those guys did. They were in the G League for most of their rookie season. They would be occasionally called up and sit on the bench. And talking with Drew Eubanks, sitting on the bench isn't just sitting there and not doing anything. It's learning the mentality part of the game. It's watching the guys at the NBA level. Even if it is Marco Bellinelli or Bryn Forbes, they're still at the NBA level, and they are able to build their mentality up to that and learn stuff from the guys that have been there for a while, and then apply it whenever they are in the G League. And it really shows, especially from Drew this season and Keldon. And I would hope to see Luka on the bench a bit more often, just so he can get some of that mentality training that these guys have. And it's really, again, that mentality training has really been showing up and showing why these guys are some of the best in the G League currently.
Do you think? Do you still like Pop's approach to it? We're sending most of them to the G League, or would you like to see them come straight to the main roster?
As much, I think as a fan, I want to see them straight to the roster, but whenever I look at these teams, look at the development, look at more of the player perspective, I prefer them in the G League just because they're not sitting at the end of the bench. Unlike some of these other guys in the lottery, like Brendan Clark, stuff like that, where they're getting minutes because there's not that many vets. They do well, but I think these guys are not exactly NBA ready at their best skill. But I prefer them having the minutes down in Austin. I prefer them getting those reps and getting used to the NBA type pace. And even more, according to Quindary, that the pace down in the G League is actually faster than the NBA pace. So it might even help them further down the road. But I prefer them in the G League over the NBA currently, especially if it's their rookie season.
Now, here's a question
and
for
I,
you
and
guys.
I think
go ahead,
Spurs
John.
fans need to hear that, though. Oh, no, I'm just saying, because I know right now Spurs fans, where you look at Spurs Twitter, the front office doesn't have the people are questioning the front office a lot. And that's one of the bigger sticking point. That's one of the bigger sticking points is, why does every rookie got to go to Austin? But I think, Ty brings up a great point. They need it. And maybe if we were picking in the top 10, you probably don't send a top 10 player to the Austin, and maybe we're picking in the top 10 this year. I don't know. But the guys that we have drafted, Ty mentioned Keldon Shot needs some work. We all mentioned Luka needs to eat a few ribs, maybe some tacos. He needs to bulk up. But it did wonders for Derek White. It did well for Lonnie. And I just think Spurs Twitter needs to hear that long term, it's better for these guys to be in Austin for the first year. And again, maybe this year we're drafting higher than ever before, and they get a kid that's ready to play in San Antonio right away. But for now, it sounds like the best path for our younger players was to go to Austin the first year.
Yeah, that's basically what the Spurs are going to wind up doing, because it helps develop the player. It helps get them ready to play at that NBA level. And let's face it, if the Spurs were just to go ahead and forego the G League and just get all their draft picks and go ahead and insert them into, the lineup somewhere and just tell them to go out there on the court and try to compete at any given night with some of these other well-coached teams, the Spurs we're going to probably wind up in a worse situation than they are right now. But there's the question, though. Even though that the Spurs are in the predicament they are in, and it looks like they are well on their way to not making the playoffs, if this team still continues to lose, the question is, should Coach Pop just go ahead and say, you know what, let's go ahead and pull these veterans back, and let's just go ahead and start inserting these young guys into the lineup and giving them some run. If we're going to lose, okay, we're going to lose, but let's see what these young guys can do, and let's get them some experience, as the season starts to wind down a bit. That way you can make sure that your veterans get some much needed rest, because really at the end of the day, you don't want them getting hurt if you're going to start looking at them and possibly making them an offer to retain them in one DeMar DeRozan. You don't want him hurt, and going into the offseason with an injury if you're going to throw a contract at him. So that's my thinking.
But you can't pull his minutes.
Yeah.
You can't pull his minutes and then try to offer him a deal. You're going to piss him off.
Yeah.
And then you're going to ask him to sign a team-friendly deal. I think that's the real issue.
And the other issue is, too, where this is not a team that's been blown out often. Yes, they have a few games that they get blown out.
Yeah, they remain competitive.
These games, they're losing games that are pretty close, and they will go on. They'll be in a game. Look at Denver, where they are in that game until the third quarter, and then the fourth quarter it just kind of goes downhill. But they're
the
still
wheels
fighting
fall off in the fourth.
Yes,
listen, guys. There's an old saying in basketball, right? Yeah. I'm a coach. Been coaching for a long time at the high school level. When it comes down to 6 or less, it's coaching. When it comes down to 6 or more, it's probably effort on the player's part, execution, things like that. But when it comes down to 6 points or less, usually that has to deal with either some coaching decisions, lineups, minutes given to a player or another. Usually it's in the coach's hands. So Ty, you're right. We've lost so many games by 6 points, 4 points, 8 points. I mean, all of that comes down to coaching, put lineup personnel and things like that. Of course, yes, the players got to play. The players are the ones playing. But all those games that we've lost, they've come down to coaching. It's been coaching. It's been a weird season. It's been a weird season on that part, And real quick, I want to just put one little anecdote on the G League talk. Keldon doesn't need a 3-point shot to play in the NBA. I'm saying it right now. He doesn't need to shoot.
Okay. He just needs a good mid-range jumper, dude.
He's not that type of player who needs plays called for him, who can't get chased off the line because they don't know what to do, and a la Danny Green, Davis Bertans. He's not that guy. You know what I'm saying? So when he does get chased off the line, he's so strong. I mean, he can finish with 1 or 2 bumps, probably better than most people on our team right now. Finishing at the rim.
He can finish better than Bryn Forbes.
Under control.
He can finish better than Bryn.
He can finish better than most people.
But in today's NBA, I mean, we even made LaMarcus develop a 3-point shot. Is it feasible to just pull him up? Do you put him on the main roster now and just live with it? Or do you let Chip England and this whole staff do their thing and get him a shot?
Well, who says that it can't be both? Who says that he can't be working on his shot there in San Antonio? I mean, I don't think Chip England is going to Austin every day just to work out with these guys. I mean, that's the whole argument about reps, And in the G League, Luka, like right now, the G League is perfect for Luka. He's getting all of the same type of shots with Austin that he's going to be getting in San Antonio, and he's getting them at a high clip. Now, is he efficient with it? I think he's taking the second most threes, but he's, one of the worst efficient, 3-point shooters on our team. But he's getting all these good looks. He's shooting them in rhythm with confidence, and that's encouraging. You want him to take those shots. But at the end of the day, this season has come down to coaching. And that's why, John, when you were talking about earlier, how, that's kind of been a footnote on this season is, Spurs Nation questioning Coach Pop. Question for the first time in 20 some years, we think we can question Coach Pop. You know, no. Okay, he knows what he's doing. For the reasons why he's doing it is the biggest mystery.
Yeah, it has to do more with, I think, building towards the future is really what's going on.
But people will say, why isn't he playing younger guys more?
And I think that comes down. I think that comes down
trust.
to it comes to Pop's trust, and it comes to the plans in the offseason where it looks like that they might try to do a sign and trade with DeMar, where you could easily dish him out for more younger players that could really help your team. And I think that's something that you just need to show off how good these guys are. And DeMar's been going off handle, especially earlier in the season. And but going back to Keldon's shot, yeah, he doesn't really need to produce it. I don't think he needs the 3-point shot. Would it hurt for him to have a shot like once or twice a game? That would not hurt, but his mid-range game needs some improvement. He's taking nearly over 200 attempts from less than 5 feet from the rim, while only taking 103 in the mid-range. And that mid-range is kind of ranging in the 37% to 43%. While I will say from less than 5 feet, he's averaging 70% from that distance. But he just needs to stretch his shot just a little bit, and that's what I mean by improving his shot and overall. And three-point shooting is kind of a good general indicator of how well he's shooting from deep in some sort of a sense. If it's 10 feet from the rim or 24 feet from the rim, that's kind of my thinking in my terms, I would say, when I want him to improve his shots.
Yeah, because, the way the Spurs play, there's going to be times where he catches the ball at the end of that rotation, right? So the ball gets drive, kick, pass, and it's going to end up in his hands. He's got to be able to know what to do with it. He's got to be able to knock it down. He's got to be able to take the 3-point. I totally agree with you there on that. But Keldon just has what we've needed all season.
I agree with that.
Keldon has the energy, the toughness,
got that fire,
the enthusiasm.
Yeah.
He's going to get you second chance opportunities. He's going to get you 2 or 3 offensive rebounds. He's going to get you a steal. He's just going to make you better by him being on the floor and playing hard.
Yeah, he's got that hustle, man. He's got that hustle, and that's what we're missing.
And that's why I feel like, his offensive struggles, like their rookie struggles, he's going to develop. The shots that I see him taking right now in the G League in the mid-range are a lot of those Tony Parker long pull-up jumpers off 1 or 2 dribbles just on top of the key, off the left or right wing. But he doesn't really, I don't think he needed that this year to even play for us. I think he could have played for us this year just because we needed what he had. We can put Marco on the floor. We can put Brent on the floor with him. We can put Rudy on the floor, whoever, to space the floor, right? To help space the floor while he's out there. But I think there was opportunity. I think it was a missed opportunity for Keldon. I totally think Quindary is evolving down there. I think Luka is evolving right in front of our eyes. But Keldon was ready to play now. He's a Kentucky guy. He is a lottery pick that fell to 29.
That's true.
I don't know what happened there, but he was. You know what? It probably was his shooting. People were probably looking, oh, he can't shoot. But Coach Calipari came out and said after the draft, hey, who's going to have the best career out of all these guys is Keldon, out of all of his guys this past year.
Because he had the skills already.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, he has the toughness. He has, he's big body.
Oh, that too.
And overall, I'm not doubting the future of Keldon. I'm not saying that, oh, he's going to be a bust. I don't think that. This dude is very talented. There's a reason they're in the G League, and I think one of those reasons is that jump shot. But because especially I'm looking at more splits as we talk, and looking at the shot type summary, he's like 64% when he does a layup. The problem is he's only 37% when he does a jump shot. But still, overall, like you said, that energy that he brings, the hustle, the dynamite finishing that he can do, that is stuff that the Spurs do need. And I think could improve the team, especially down this stretch at least.
One of the things that I'm interested in, Ty, what is his percentage from the stripe?
From the stripe, come back to me on that, and I'll come back up.
Yeah, because the thing is,
Ty, doesn't he sound like?
Let me ask you real quick, Ty. Do you like where Lonnie was more ready offensively to come in during year one, as so was Derek.
Yes.
Do you think Keldon Johnson was kind of the opposite of that? He was ready to come in year one defensively. It would have taken some reps to learn the rotations, the terminology, of course, but he's just a guy that's always in the right place in the right time. Do you think his defense is ready to go year one?
Well, before Ty answers that question, John, you had something you were going to ask him too, right?
Well, I was just gonna say, you guys are describing Keldon as a guy that hustles, a guy that plays real hard on defense. He makes plays happen. It sounds like Derek White and DeJounte Murray.
Definitely.
It sounds like the Spurs have a type.
Mm-hmm.
Like when you date a certain kind of girl, Pop has a type.
We draft certain.
She's a certain shape. Is that what you're trying to say?
Pop has a type. Pop has a type. And do you think Lonnie fits that type, or do you think he's kind of different from the rest?
So first with the Lonnie question, I think he's more of a low key dog than he still has energy. He still has hustle. I think we all seen that, especially with his dunks. I think he just reserves that all for his dunks, but he has the energy. I think we've seen many hustle plays, especially on defense from Lonnie. And I think Lonnie does fit that type, but just in a different way, I would say. Now going on to the Keldon, from the stripe, he is shooting 75% from the free throw line. That is also kind of skewed in my way, just with how the new rule that the G League is trying, where if you make one free throw, it means you make all your free throws unless it's in the last 2 minutes. So I kind of don't trust the free throw percentage when it comes to G League stats. But when it comes to Keldon's defense, it doesn't really show up on the stats. According to the stats, he's only averaging 0.7 steals and 0.6 blocks. But his effort, like you said, his effort on defense is really fantastic, and it really shows whenever you watch. And he will put some really good on-ball effort on his opponent, and I think that's always a key thing. Well, is it sometimes accessible to making some mistakes? Yes, that's a rookie. What are you expecting? You're not expecting. Unfortunately, Keldon is not Tybal. Tybal is just fantastic on defense, but Keldon doesn't mean Keldon isn't good on defense. He's good on defense, but again, the G League's there for him to improve further, and I think that's going to make him a better defender in the long run. And I think he's going to be a really good two-way player after going into his sophomore year.
Okay, so this is what I'm going to ask you guys. We're going to go ahead and switch gears here, and we're going to start this topic off with John from Spurs and Salsa. John, the Spurs definitely need a position filled. And we know, well, from my understanding, from what I've been able to see this season, that position is a 3-and-D guy. We need somebody who can shoot the three and actually help guard the wing, because if you look at the stats, what's been happening is that the Spurs are getting killed by the opposing teams most nights because they're just shooting the three on the Spurs at will. And there's really nobody out there to really guard the wing effectively. The guys that we depended on are no longer here. And one, Danny Green and Kawhi Leonard, they're gone. So in my opinion, the Spurs need a 3-and-D guy. But in your opinion, I'd like to hear what you have to say as far as what position do you think the Spurs need to fill to remain competitive in the years to come?
Well, I think they're trying to draft a bunch of 3-and-D guys, with Keldon Johnson. They want him to develop a shot. Derek White, Lonnie Walker. I think that's their type. I think Pop knows that's where the league is going. I think a couple of years ago, Pop thought he had the perfect team to defend the Warriors. If Kawhi doesn't do what he does, right now our starting backcourt would be DeJounte Murray, Danny Green, and Kawhi Leonard. You're not going to get any better than that defending the wing. So I think since Kawhi's been gone, and even before he was gone, they've been drafting guys like, again, Keldon Johnson, DeJounte Murray, Derek White.
Don't forget Kyle Anderson, too.
Oh, yeah.
You're right, Kyle. So he's been trying to fill that 3-and-D void. Where I think they need to fill a void is up front. Everybody wants to trade LaMarcus Aldridge just because he's an older guy and he's never really endeared himself to the fan base for whatever reason. But they don't have a lot of young players in the post. Pirtle's there, but I think his contract's up this year, so he's not guaranteed to be here in the long term. I think they need to address the post position. They need to get younger there. Luka's there, but Luka needs to bulk up. He might even be playing a lot of three. I think they need to get more athletic and younger up front.
Okay. Oh, I certainly agree with the I think the forward position and the big man position is something that the Spurs need to continue on. That's why I like Drew Eubanks. That's why I like Luka. Yeah. That's why I love Pirtle. I think luckily Pirtle's a restricted free agent. Damn dog, that dog is not liking my opinions. but
must be a Mavs fan.
What? I see a blue collar, so that's not encouraging. But I think let me go back. Let me rewind. But I think Pirtle is luckily a restricted free agent, and I'm hoping the Spurs put a good offer for him, or even match him, unlike they did with Kyle Anderson a few seasons ago. Because I think Pirtle is worth that. If you look at his advanced stats, Pirtle is something else for this team, and he is one of the best. He's the best, has best offensive rating, and has the best defensive rating for the team, and that's just him being a role guy. But he's very much a low-key MVP for this team with the way he plays, the way he defends, and I really hope the Spurs keep him on this team because he is very valuable and at least keep something within for an asset for coming Kawhi, because Jakob Poeltl is a great asset that they got out of that Kawhi trade. But I still think they need to fill up that big man position. LMA is not going to be here for much longer. He's going to be in his last season next season. He's going to be 35. He's going to be 36 at the end of that season. So they really need to concentrate on getting guys that can run the rim, they can defend the rim. Looking at guys like Obi Toppin in the draft. You need guys like that. I think Drew Eubanks is going to be would be a perfect guy to fill in for that role. Chimezie Metu is certainly a guy that's been showing some signs of life and really showing up whenever he does in play for the Spurs or in the G League as well. I think that's one guy that we really need to mention more often because he's doing some fascinating stuff, especially athletically. But I agree, the forward position needs some improvement on the 3, the 4, and certainly the 5, because I think you look at the league is full of good big men now. Look at Kristaps Porzingis, Joel Embiid, Nikola Jokic. Yep. Don't get a guy like Jokic's size. I don't need someone that tubby, but there's a lot of great big men in this league, and I think the Spurs need to find that role to put next to DeJounte, to put next to Lonnie Walker, Keldon Johnson. I think honestly, Luka Samanic might be that guy when it comes to just being very talented. Is he going to be really buff compared to some of these guys? Not really, but Luka said himself, he has a game like Kevin Durant, and it shows. His body type's the exact same, and I think he's going to be great for the 3 and 4. It just comes down to having that great 5.
You know what, Nikola Jokic, man, I got to say something about that guy. I've watched him play. I've kept my eye on him for some time. He is one of the best, biggest passing big men that we have here in the NBA. Man, that guy is like an artist, man, with the ball, and the way he's able to pass it and get it to his teammates, that are open. It's a thing of beauty, man. I got to respect him in that regards in his game.
He's like a 7-foot Boris Diaw.
Dude, he kind of reminds me of that guy I used to play with Portland years ago. What was his name? That big guy? Sabonis, dude. Sabonis came into the NBA a couple years too late. If he had come in his prime, he could have possibly been a Hall of Famer, because he was that good in the EuroLeague. It just, unfortunately, he just came over here too late in the latter part of his career. But he was a guy who could pass the hell out of that damn ball. And look, Nikola Jokic kind of reminds me of that, not to that extent, but as far as his passing ability. But Robert, where do you think the Spurs need to improve as far as, that position that's really going to give them that, I guess, that push to get back and be competitive again?
Yeah, I mean, it is. I mean, it's kind of cliche, but it is the 3-and-D position. It's guarding the perimeter. But, I honestly love what you guys are saying about Jakob. I'm glad I'm not the only one. There was a point before Christmas, I think it was more like around that time when we were playing Boston, where we got that win against Boston, and a couple of those games in that span where Jakob, it was clear, man, we're just so much better with him on the floor, and it's so much clear from last year to this year how much he's improved.
He runs the floor well. He runs the floor well.
Not only that, Joe, but this is what he started doing that really made me think that he can be our starting 5. And honestly, if we really need to re-sign him. We really need to re-sign him. because when LaMarcus leaves, and it's not if, it's when, and when that happens, when Jakob showed this year that he can grab a rebound and just take off with it and run the break and make passes on the break and, just push it himself.
Have a beautiful Euro step.
Oh, yeah.
Man, that changes everything. That changes everything for us. You could put Jakob out there at the 5 with 4 other wing players and really play fast. I mean, really play fast.
You can see some of his footwork at times is reminiscent of somebody else that used to play with the San Antonio Spurs. And I've seen him work out extensively with Tim Duncan out there before games. And I just sit back and watch them. And it's a thing of beauty to see Timmy out there dressed up like he can still play. And he's out there going at Jakob. And Jakob's learning the footwork, the spin, going ahead and spin around, off balance jumper, being able to use his body. And he's learning all these things from Timmy, and it's kind of showing now.
Yeah, point Jakob. Point center.
And whenever the Spurs whenever the Spurs traded for Jakob, I was like, who is this dude? And after seeing him play, and then after looking at his advanced stats, and there's clearly the Spurs did see something, because if you look at Jakob's second season with Toronto, he had an offensive rating of 122 and a defensive rating of 104 for best on the team. And that's clearly what the Spurs saw, and this man has been killing it. He's had a defensive rating of 108 or less in his career, has had an offensive rating better since his second season of 122 or better.
Yeah, there you go. John, you were going to say something.
You mentioned the trade. So we all like Keldon Johnson. We all love Pirtle. Depending on what we get for DeRozan, or if he stays, was the Kawhi trade as bad as it feels like, or was it kind of a win?
I think it was kind of a win in the short term.
Yes.
I think we can try to look for the bright spots in the trade, but we gave up a MVP and a superstar, you're never going to trade back.
Though.
Yeah, but you're never going to get back what you're giving away in the NBA when it comes to trading away superstars. And I mean, we did a very good job. Okay, we lost an all defender. We have 2 young potential first team all defenders in whenever they reach their prime, right? In Jakob and Keldon. So we did get defense back for it, but it hurts. It does. I don't know if
because the Spurs, one of the things that the Spurs are missing is a true closer and a legitimate NBA All-Star. We have former All-Stars. We don't have that superstar. We don't have that superstar in our team. And I think that's one of the things that we're really missing.
Yeah, but you weren't going to get it back. You weren't going to get you weren't going to get value for Kawhi back.
No, yeah.
That's the fact that he left after a year, because here's the thing. If Golden State doesn't get injured and they win the championship last year, does the trade even look good for Toronto?
Yeah, no.
No.
And overall, in the short term, it was a win for Toronto. But if you look at the long term, and the hindsight is always 20/20, I think we all know that. But looking at the long term, the Spurs are building a future off of that trade at the least, and really talented future.
Yeah, we ain't looking for 1-year rentals, Ty. We're not over here in San Antonio.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
exactly. And I think Spurs knew something that we didn't at that time, and it was Kawhi's going to be gone, even if they kept him that year, he was going to leave. And that's honestly the best case scenario. You did the best that you could do in that situation. And while we've seen this front office probably not do the best decisions when it comes to playing Marco, playing Bren, they've done some really good stuff on the other end of turning Kawhi Leonard for some really talented stuff, even when his value was nearly at his lowest in his career. And yeah, he did go win that team a championship, but you got yourself a great young center. You got a good, talented guy in DeMar, at least to fill in for that current time for the next few years. And then you got a first-round pick that you turned into Keldon Johnson, who's most likely going to be a steal at 29 or at 30, wherever you drafted.
True. And I think we can re-evaluate this trade once we know DeMar's future, right? If he re-signs, or if we get a good haul for him, then we can really sit back and maybe we all discuss this in the summer whenever the DeMar situation plays out. But it's looking more and more like the Spurs set themselves up better for the future than we thought at the time. especially with Pirtle playing with the way he is.
We got to bring him back.
That's the thing, man. That's going to be interesting.
You got to bring him back.
The summer is going to be interesting because you have DeMar that you have to think about. And realistically, he's not a player that I think the Spurs should throw a max contract out. He's probably going to want somewhere in the neighborhood of maybe 5 years. I think the safe thing to do with the San Antonio Spurs is to offer him a 3-year deal with that third year being an option. And let's see what happens as far as them being able to retain somebody else, such as a Jakob Poeltl, because realistically, at the end of the day, you only have so much money against your cap, and there's only so much to go around. You know, we made some bad decisions, and we still have to pay Paul Gasol. We still have to pay DeMar Carroll, even though he's not with us because of the buyout. You know, so some of this stuff does count against the cap.
And
I think I'm sorry.
Go ahead, John.
I think with DeMar,
I was gonna say. All right. Who goes first?
John.
This is a stand.
I'm gonna let John go.
I think with DeMar, DeMar's at a point where he's in his prime, but he's about to fall off that cliff in the next year or two.
Like a Rudy Gay?
He's gonna want to go. Yeah, not that bad, but
Rudy's is more due to injury than anything else.
Yeah, true enough.
But I think DeMar needs to go to a team that can compete now, whereas we're looking at a team that's gonna compete in 3 or 4 years, hopefully.
I don't even think they'll come 2 years. I say like 1 or 2 years.
Yeah, my timetable is about 2 seasons, 3 seasons at the max, but I think in 2 seasons they're gonna be right back up there again.
And I think that's still too long for DeMar. I think you make a decision. Hey, DeMar, we'll do a sign and trade. It's best for you and it's best for us, right? Because even if your timetable is 2 years, let's go get 2 players or 3, whatever you can get for him. I think that'll be the compromise between the Spurs and DeRozan. I think there's a lot of respect between the Spurs and DeRozan, and I don't think he would like to stay here if we were competing. But I think at the end of the day, they'll come to the conclusion that DeRozan's at a point in his career where he can contribute. He could be the number 2 on a championship level team, and the Spurs are looking more towards the next 2 or 3 years after DeRozan's in his prime.
Yeah.
So I don't think you offer him a 5-year deal, because remember, he's going to probably be the best free agent on the market this year.
He's going to be sought after.
Well, I don't know if the market's as big as we all think it is for him. I mean, he's a player that doesn't shoot threes. I mean, like let's just be honest. That's where the league is going. And who's going to give a player that cannot shoot threes a 5-year max contract? You know,
teams that are desperate for offense. We saw that. Teams that are different with like Magic.
Yeah.
Yes, teams that are different, desperate for offense, but that have the money. And we saw a lot of teams that were going to have that money use it in this last before the trade deadline and the buyout market and all that stuff. But Joe, I want to ask you, Joe, if the situation comes to our doorstep next year where we end up getting rid of DeMar DeRozan and we end up parting ways with LaMarcus as well, how do you feel about the players that we have right now stepping into like larger roles? Maybe Jakob coming in at the 5 and Lonnie coming in with DeMar's spot with the rest of the same lineup. How do you feel about that?
I feel good about that because everybody knows it takes at least 2 to 3 seasons for a player to really get comfortable in the Spurs system. And we don't know what's going to happen within the next 2 to 3 seasons. It could be that Pop decides to retire maybe at the end of this season or next season. And then we have that transition period where we're going to have a new head coach. That's kind of a little influx, but at the core, I think the system will still stay intact somewhat, and there might be some minor changes. But overall, that level of player that we're looking at right now, as far as who Jakob Poeltl is going to wind up developing into, I think is really going to be somebody who can stand pat and be in that starting lineup and contribute at a high level. And he's going to be not a superstar, but he's going to be a damn good role player. And he's going to fit that bill quite nicely. He's going to have the passing ability. He's going to be able to, have that cohesiveness with his teammates to know, just by looking at them, by looking at each other, he wants me to pass the ball here and I have to get him in the the correct position so he has a better chance of scoring, or I can go ahead and set the pick, which he's already good at. Setting screens, another thing that he's good at. And also following up, getting those quick, misses and putting them back in, a putback for two, which is something that he does quite well. For being such a big guy, he's pretty quick on his feet. He has that quick step, that quick jump that I like a lot out of him. So I think he's going to be a good role player.
He's just as good as DeAndre Jordan, Clint Capella, like all these other just
they just get paid more.
The guys that are the centers that are out there that are just kind of will players that just use their athleticism, aren't that skilled. Jakob's better than half of those guys already, and he's got skill. And he's got passing ability, finishing ability.
And I think everyone forgot that teams were interested in getting Jakob at the trade deadline. I think that's going to
they inquired about
a key role whenever it comes to free agency. But again, he's honestly worth that money if he is going to be. I don't think he's going to get a max contract. No one thinks that, but he's definitely going to get. I think he's going to get in the range of 15 to 20 million at the least, I would think. And I think the Spurs would happily be able to match that.
Yeah, they would be not too intelligent if they didn't, because you have somebody here who's already shown you that he can develop into this stereotypical player that you need to play that position here, and you've already put that time into him. Might as well keep him here and let him develop even further so he can be that really good role player, that solid player that the Spurs are going to need, So I agree with that, So we're coming to a close here because it's already starting to get a little late. So what we're going to do is we're going to go around the horn here, and we're going to go ahead and let you guys once again plug yourselves. Let us know if you got anything cooking that's interesting, and that way everybody can give you a like and a follow, or if you have a YouTube channel, they can subscribe to you. We'll go ahead and start with you, Robert. Go ahead and let us know what you guys got cooking on over there at the Bucking Spurs Podcast.
Yeah, you can always find everything that we've got going on at buckingspurs.com. You can follow us on social media, on Twitter, on Instagram, are usually the ones that we're on most. You can follow our YouTube channel. We're always dropping videos there. I say we, but really it's just me. I don't know why I keep saying we all the time. Yeah, we do this. It's just me. I do it all back here.
It's your split personality.
Yeah, I'm the tech guy, the host, the producer, all that stuff. Anyways. But no, I appreciate you guys having me on. This was a lot of fun, man. Let's do it. This season's going downhill, but we don't have to go downhill with it. You know what I'm saying?
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go. I got a surprise for you guys after this, so I'll talk with you all about that off camera. But we're gonna go ahead and ask the same question for the guys from Spurs and Salsa. Where can they see all the good stuff that you have cranking out as far as not only San Antonio Spurs, but the local cuisine here in San Antonio?
Thank you. Yes, you can find us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. Like you mentioned, we cover the Spurs. We cover all the sports around town. And we also love to cover local restaurants and local beers. We're always doing that. Go to our Instagram page. That's where we put all our food and drink stuff. And then on Twitter, you could find us at Spurs and Salsa. And we'll be cranking it all year, even when the Spurs are off season. I think off season will probably be more fun than current season.
Oh, yeah, no doubt, because it won't hurt as bad.
There you go.
Or will it?
As long as I got a beer in my hand, it won't hurt as bad.
It might, though. He's right.
Nah, I'm gonna need some hard liquor if I'm gonna get through all this.
Oh man, I don't know, man. You kind of look like a Smirnoff man to me, Ty.
Oh man!
Wow,
nice.
That's a hit. Even though I drink Smirnoff because I'm broke college student. It's wow.
That's why I said Smirnoff, because it's under budget, bro.
Don't make me pull out my rum, because I got rum and I will pull it out.
If it doesn't have a cork in it, I don't want it.
Okay.
The twist off cap. I'm gonna be like, no, Ty, we got to help you out. We're gonna go start a GoFundMe for Ty. We got to give him the good stuff.
We're gonna stock his liquor shelf.
There we go. Yeah, for the draft.
There you go, man.
Wow.
Get you through the draft. So where can they look at all the stuff you all got cranking out over there at the line?
Well, first I was looking at footage from the last podcast you do, and I really need to step up my light game like Steven did with his disco.
Oh my God.
He was at.
That's an ongoing joke. That's an ongoing joke because Michael De Leon, he doesn't like the disco lighting behind Steven, so we make it a point to be as obnoxious as we can be with the disco lighting, where Steven will even strobe it sometimes in the background. We like to poke fun at Michael, man. That's what it is.
I love it. When I used to live with my parents, I had a huge LED light that would just light my whole room, and I would occasionally turn to colors. And I actually have like an LED light behind my desk that you can't see. So, but you can follow me on Twitter at Ty Jaeger Radio. That's Ty Jager Radio. You can follow all this stuff. I also contribute at the Spurs Zone. So if you want more Spurs content, anything like that, or more Austin Spurs stuff from me, you can find that at my Twitter at Ty Jaeger Radio. You can follow my co-host Mac at MacPen Media. You can follow our podcast at The Line Pod. And then we have the lovely Koala Mills. But if you want to get your own Koala Mills keychain, which looks like this, I know isn't it cute? All you guys need to get your own Koala Mills keychain. They're $15 will be our limited supply, and a portion of your purchase will go towards Wires in New South Wales, which is for wildlife relief amongst all the Australian bushfires that are going on. Again, $15, and you can get yours at bit.ly/Koala Mills. That's bit.ly/Koala Mills, or find it on my Twitter to get your own. We have about 25 left. So get yours, because this is the only time that we are ever going to make these and sell these. So get yours before they are gone. bit.ly/Koala Mills. And find that on my Twitter again at Ty Jaeger Radio.
And Ty does take Cash App, because I went ahead and paid for my Koala Mills. So I got mine coming in.
Yes. So we got PayPal and Cash App if you want to do that. We accept both, and we are happy to get your payments. If you are in Australia and somehow run into this podcast, please DM me. We do need to do special shipping for you to get any of your Koala Mills. Unfortunately, Australia is one of the most expensive places to ship to in the U.S., so we need to make some certain arrangements to get you your own Koala Mills, but we are happy to work with you to get those out. In the U.S., there's no additional cost for shipping. It's $15 straight up for you guys in the U.S.
Now, there you go. So make sure you go and order your Koala Mills, and make sure that you guys follow all these other guys that work hard to try to deliver the best possible content that they all can. They all do a magnificent job. So make sure you go ahead and give them a follow, give them a like, and support them. You know, everybody's all about supporting our local podcasters here, especially the young guys, like all three of them right now. So make sure you go and follow them and support and like everything that they do. And also, you know, you feel like we have merit and you like what we put out, go ahead and follow us, you know, and give us a like at Two Shots Podcast. And it's all spelled out TWOSHOTS Podcast. And you can also find everything you need to know about Two Shots at twoshotspodcast.com. So for John from Spurs and Salsa, Robert Trejo of A Bucking Spurs Podcast, and Ty Jaeger from At The Line, I'm Joe Garcia. And like we always say, spread the love, stop the hate, be kind. We're out. Peace.